There are three things in the world that I hate: mayonnaise, Pepsi Cola, and the state of Indiana. I'm Jason Herbert, and this is A Reckoning. Hey guys, good morning. It's Sunday, March 9th, and we are just now adjusting to daylight savings time. And tonight we're watching Hoosiers on the watch party. And for the longest time, people have asked me to watch this film, and I have consistently denied them this opportunity, saying that there was one film banned from HATM, and it is Hoosiers. And I thought maybe this morning I'd give you guys a little bit of the backstory behind that, with maybe some laughs and some inflection too. I think a lot of you guys know that I am from Kentucky originally, but for the longest time, I didn't know that. My earliest memories are not of Kentucky. They're actually of Louisiana. We moved from Murray, Kentucky, my hometown, down to Breaux Bridge, Louisiana, down in Cajun country, when I was about 3 years old. And I've got a couple of memories from Kentucky, but not very many. So that process of identifying like who I was and where I was from, especially when you move to a place that is different from your home place, becomes super, super important. For whatever reason, part of the reason why I identified as a Kentuckian was because I was not from Indiana. And there's a whole lot of stuff about that. Of course, state-to-state rivalries are common and so forth. There's Kansas, Missouri, Colorado, and everywhere and everything else like that. But, you know, for me, for many Kentuckians, the big part about being Kentucky is actually being a Kentucky basketball fan. In fact, so I've got the three things that I hate, but they're also the three things that I love, which are Star Wars, Coca-Cola, and Kentucky basketball. And for Kentuckians and Hoosiers alike, being a Kentucky basketball fan and being a Hoosier basketball fan are linked. They're almost they're a given. In fact, I think a lot of us Kentuckians look at Louisville basketball fans as traitors to the cause. At least I kind of always have. And I would imagine that Hoosiers also look at like Purdue Boilermakers or Notre Dame basketball fans as maybe a bit of the same, right? And as a kid, you know, I didn't know anything about Kentucky, but I knew that basketball was good, at least initially in the early 80s before we had our fall off for a little while. And we'd see them on television. And of course, and we'd have this coach, his name was Joe B. Hall, and he was kind of this big guy, and he was really sweet and kind of lovable and so forth. And opposite to that was Indiana, and you had Bobby Knight, this fiery coach, this really antagonistic guy who threw chairs and cursed, and as we find out later, like choked players and stuff like that. And I always found that, like, I didn't like that, right? That was a thing that was like, oh, okay, well, Indiana is bad from my earliest days. What I knew about Kentucky was home and Indiana was bad. So there was a very early formation with that. And then, of course, complicating things, as every 47-year-old man has, was my own issues with my dad. My dad's name was Rick Herbert, and he was born in Evansville, Indiana. So when I would go to visit him and his family, like we would on occasion, he was living in like Henderson, Kentucky, and Uniontown, Kentucky, which are these small towns on the Ohio River that are opposite the state of Indiana. But we would like go into Evansville, which is the city opposite Henderson. And if you're driving around, my friend Crystalline does this all the time. She's a professor up there. You'll see Herbert on all the signs. They're Herbert this, Herbert that on top of street signs and stuff like that, which is weird because I guess it's kind of where my dad's people come from. I don't really know my father's family. And this probably plays into it. But I remember we would go into Indiana. I remember I just didn't like it. I remember like it was like the people seemed different or rude or something. I don't know. I was a kid, right? These were just this is probably all filtering in from the fact that like I was with my dad and it was this weird thing. I saw this guy like once or twice a year and that was it, right? So all of these perceptions growing up fed into one another, where I just was like, I don't like Indiana. And then it became like a thing. And of course, if you look at the state of Indiana, their own history, first of all, they're trying to steal Lincoln from us. They like Illinois, try to call themselves lands of Lincoln. Lincoln, my friends, was not born in Illinois or Indiana. Yes, he spent time there, but that'd be like calling me a Coloradan. Sorry, folks, it's just not going to happen. This is where I live, but it's not who I am. And I steadfastly claim Lincoln until the day I die. So there's that, you know, and there's this reputation of Indiana. Some people have called it the middle finger of the South. It is like, I call it the Mississippi of the Midwest. You know, it's not really pretty. It's just a bunch of farmland. And those of you who are listening in on Sunday going, well, I think the farmlands are pretty here in India. Well, that's all fine and good. You should go farm them right now. I don't know, guys. There goes my farmer people. My listenership's going to drop off in Nebraska now. So there was always this thing, and it drove me nuts. So combination of being part of like my identity as a Kentuckian was the fact that I was not from Indiana. Became this thing. So as we got older and so forth, I really kind of rooted against it. And part of this was like, I decided that as a devout Kentucky basketball fan, I would not watch anything that gave glory to basketball in the state of Indiana. Indiana has always been my least favorite team. You know, certainly Duke I hate, and Tennessee. Well, Tennessee's like the dumb little brother. Tennessee is the Justin Herbert of the world. You know, I respect North Carolina and their basketball tradition. Kansas is annoying, but they're very good. I have like, for the blue bloods, right? The blue bloods in college basketball are Kentucky, North Carolina, Duke, Kansas, and then for the longest time, Indiana, until they fell off after Bobby Knight. And I guess now you have to put in UConn because of their recent success since 2000. So there's all of that, right? So I was like, there's this rivalry going on, and I'm like, I'm not going to watch Hoosiers. I know about this film. I don't want to watch it. I'm not going to give glory to anything in Indiana. I will not acknowledge anything legitimate. How dare they claim to also have a basketball tradition? So this film comes out in 86, Gene Hackman. And as I understand it, it's amazing. I've never seen Hoosiers. I have steadfastly always said that I will not watch Hoosiers ever in my life. And then Gene Hackman passed last week, right? Actually passed several weeks now that we know of. And I was looking for like literally any other film. I was like, we can do Unforgiven. We can do No Way Out. Let's do Crimson Tide. Let's do anything. And for some reason, the gods, creators, someone out there said the only Gene Hackman film available on social media is this damn movie, is Hoosiers, which is available on Amazon Prime. So tonight, we're going to watch it on the watch party. It'll be my very first time watching because I love basketball. I can watch any basketball game, any college basketball game. I'm not really a professional guy. I can watch any college basketball game. I love the sport. I love the way it's moved. I'm not really a fan of the way that's being played right now. There's too much three-point shooting right now. There's not enough movement on the inside. But I can always, like, I remember growing up, you know, late at night, I could watch, you know, a game between San Diego State and Fresno State. I didn't really care. I just love to watch the game. And part of that's just being a Kentucky basketball fan, because Kentucky basketball fans are just notoriously studious of the game. We love to watch basketball, no matter who's playing and stuff. So anyway, long story short, you know, there's a lot of great people. Now I have to feel like I have to backtrack, right? My best friend lives in Evansville. One of my other best buddies, Colin, he's from Indiana. My dear friend Liz went to Notre Dame, which I always feel like Notre Dame doesn't actually exist in Indiana. It's in South Bend, but it feels like it lives on this other plane of existence. You know, Notre Dame is beyond the borders of Indiana. And I know that Indiana has some good things going for it. Just have never heard of it. Fort Wayne gives us Jackson 5. I don't know. Something else. I'm told Indianapolis is actually a good town. I will not, however, recognize Indiana University is a great school as well. Purdue's a great school. A lot of great schools in Indiana, so long as we have schools. Indiana has Mike Pence, and if he'll do the right thing, he'll make sure that he'll share this podcast. God, what an ass. So yeah, so that's my beef with Indiana. It came from the fact that, like, growing up, there was nothing to really say what it was to be from Kentucky, aside from the fact that the one thing that we weren't as Kentuckians was Hoosiers, right? And I actually think that's really important when you think about developing stuff. I think a lot of times it helps to have a rival. Rivals are fun. It helps to have a backing, a thing to back off, to back against, to say, hey, I don't know what I am, but I know that I'm not this. Unfortunately, I think that sometimes plays off too well in the political arena today. So, hey, look, regardless, it's going to be a new era in HATM history tonight as we watch Hoosiers for the very first time, and I'm forced to watch this film. You may be asking yourself, if we're finally allowed to watch Hoosiers, what's the new banned film? I can tell you guys, it's The Fifth Element. It's a film I have seen and I hate, and I don't understand why you guys like it. It's so impossibly bad. The effects are bad. The backstories are bad. Everyone's giving this horribly hammy acting performance. There's absolutely no chemistry between Bruce Willis and Mila Jovovich. Gary Oldman is absolutely terrible in this film. Chris Tucker is awful. He's annoying. I hate every part of The Fifth Element. It is awful. It is god-awful. I need to write about how much I hate. I need to write the 6 elements of hating The Fifth Element. It's so bad. So, that said, tonight, if you want to watch Hoosiers with the rest of us here on HATM, you can do so by following me on Blue Sky, which is at Herbert History, and look for the hashtag HATM at 8 p.m. Eastern. So we're going to watch Hoosiers. It's available on Amazon Prime, and I guess maybe I'll eat some crow on this one tonight because I understand it's actually a pretty good film that I'll actually like. So there's your quick rant. I hope you're having a great Sunday. I'm drinking my coffee. My mug today says, "Coffee makes me less murdery." We're gearing up for another tough week this week, so let's stick together, and I'll see you tonight. Ciao for now.